Hey guys, my name is JK and today I'm gonna show you how to make this llama cake. I'm really excited about this because I love the texture of the buttercream on this cake. I love the fact that his fur hangs over his eyes. I think he's so cute. So let's get started. Now to create this cake, I'm using a lot of different sized cake pans. We have a 9x5" cake pan, 2 egg-shaped cakes, and 3 6" round cakes. The first thing I'm gonna do is level off all of my cakes with my cake leveler. Just makes everything super easy. I'm also gonna level off the egg cakes with my serrated knife. First thing I needed to do was hot glue gun my PVC pipe into the middle of my cake board. That way I could stack my cakes high. Placed on my first cake, which was my 9x5" cake. In between each layer of cake, I added some buttercream and just spread it out with an offset spatula. And then on went my next 2 layers. Now for the body, I'm using a 6" round cake. And for the back of my llama's body, I'm actually using my egg cake. But I cut half a circle off the top of the egg cake so I could press the bottom part of the egg up against my round cake. And on went another layer of buttercream, and I just repeated that process. Now I'm just using a box cake and I'm using vanilla and strawberry. I wanted my llama to be pink, and I thought it'd be cool if he was pink on the inside as well. And strawberry and vanilla is like a classic combination. I think he looks like a Peter, so I'm gonna name my llama Peter. Now I'm adding a support system with this coupler, right? It's a coupler. Yeah, it's a coupler. It's a pipe coupler. I cut out a piece of cardboard that fit around my washer and I just placed it on top so that could support the rest of my llama's head. I added another layer of cake. Then I used a plastic pipe cutter to cut the PVC pipe to size so that it doesn't go past my llama's head. I added on my last layer of cake, which was my last egg-shaped cake. I thought anyways. I realized that my llama's snout is not at the top of his face but in the middle, so I switched my last 2 layers of cake so that the egg-shaped cake was in the middle, and then I placed my last 6" round cake on top of it. I added some buttercream and some cake scraps just to fill in the gap, which is kind of useless because when I was carving my cake, all of that mess just went away. I took my serrated knife and began to turn this abstract looking pile of cake into a llama. I'm just rounding out the bottom of the cake to get the llama's body, and then I started to just taper his neck so it was thicker at the bottom and then slightly thinner at the top towards the llama's face. And I rounded out the top of the llama's head and then gave him a snout for his mouth. Now this baby needed a crumb coat, so I placed on a crumb coat and then placed it into the fridge for about 30 minutes. Now this was just like the initial carve. Whenever I'm doing like a carved cake, I like to step away for a little bit and then come back to it with a fresh set of eyes. I took it out and there was still a lot of carving to be done. I decided to round out the head a little bit more. I thinned out the neck just a little bit and then separated the back legs from the rest of its body. After that, I gave it another crumb coat. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a professional baker, like super ultra professional baker. So I used this extremely professional cake technique for the legs called I opened a box of Twinkies. Just opened a pack and then cut each Twinkie to fit the size of my llama's legs. Pushed it into place and then gave each of the legs a crumb coat. Guys, if you're not using Twinkies to create your llama legs or your any type of animal legs, then you're doing it all wrong and you're wasting precious time. And to create my llama's tail, I just took some Rice Krispies treats and then just sort of mushed it into a ball and attached it to the back of my llama with a toothpick. I gave it a crumb coat and then it went back into the fridge for another 30 minutes. And while it was in the fridge, I started to create all of my llama's features. I rolled out some ivory colored fondant and using some cookie cutters, I just cut out circles. Then I placed a toothpick in the middle of the circle and wrapped it around. And there we have it, a llama ear. Now I'm going to use the same color fondant to wrap around his head as well as its hooves, like its little toes. I took my cake out of the fridge, applied some ivory fondant to its face, just made sure that Peter's snout was covered as well as his eyes. Now this doesn't have to be perfect. All of the fondant seams will be covered up with all of our buttercream decorations. After that, I placed on some ovals of fondant around its feet so I could get its toes. And then with a sculpting tool, I just separated like 2 toes. Hold up, wait, is it still, are they toes if it's a hoof? I don't know. After I finished the fondant, it was time to add a decorative layer of buttercream to my llama's body. Now I covered my entire llama with this sort of pale salmon color. Hold on. Like a guava jelly. That's such a nice color. This whole thing is fruits. Watermelon slice. Pimento. What is it? Is it a fruit? I've never had a pimento. Pimento loaf? Is that a fruit bread? I don't know. And I love buttercream more than I love fondant, which is why I decided to make this a buttercream cake. I covered my entire llama's lower body, including his tail, but I left his neck and his head exposed. Now this went back into the fridge for about 30 minutes because I needed the buttercream to solidify. After 30 minutes, the buttercream stiffens up and it's almost like a butter sculpture, or this would be like a buttercream sculpture. Now I'm not trying to get this layer extremely flat. I love the texture that buttercream creates, so I'm just refining all of my lines, making sure that you can see all of the texture that I carved out earlier. And the texture also makes it kind of look like fur. After I finished icing his body, I started to ice his head and his neck. For his head and his neck, I wanted to make sure that there was a separation between color as well as texture. So instead of using an offset spatula to spackle it on the same way that I did the, what is it again? The guava jelly buttercream, I'm using piping bags and a variety of piping tips. I'm just using the different tips and creating the effect and technique that bakers usually use when they're creating unicorn cakes. I thought it'd be really cool to recreate that plush fur that a llama has. It looks really nice. Now you don't even have to use this on just like a unicorn cake. You can create the llama. You could probably create like a sheep. What? That would be cool. Or maybe like a lion's mane. Why didn't I think of that? That's really good. Let me write that down. Holy moly, that'd be so cool. This took a very long time, just making sure that I was adding enough texture and detail. Just making sure that I cover every single bit of the llama. I wanted to really emphasize like its hair covering its eyes. It was just like so thick that its hair was like bangs. Like you remember Sean from Boy Meets World? Where his hair, oh god, he had the greatest hair. His hair would like cover his eyes like that. That's what we're going for. You remember that show? Hopefully you do. I'm disappointed if you don't remember that show. To create more of my llama's detail, I used strands of black fondant to create my llama's nose and his mouth. On went my llama's ears. Then I gave him 2 eyes, just tucked them under the buttercream. Now imagine that like Peter lived in the desert. So I'm using some graham cracker crumbs as sand. And then I added some fondant cacti. Cactuses. Cactus is 1. Cacti is 2. Is multiple. More. And voila, my llama was complete. Yo, Peter looks so cute. I love the texture of all of the buttercream, the guava jelly and the white. I've never done this on a character cake before, so I'm very proud of it. Now let me know in the comments what character and animal you'd like to see me make next. Thinking like maybe like a lion or like even like a sheep, maybe like a black sheep. Cause that's who I am in my family. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I love you. I will see you very soon. Peace!